Thanks for coming to the table. We're catching up with Frank Yeung. Co-founder of Mr. Bao, which is currently at home in Peckham, is one of London's most loved Taiwanese spots. And we're pretty spoilt for good guabao here in London, and Frank's one of the main reasons for that. His modern casual spots, Mr. Bao and Daddy Bao, balances a mix of Taiwanese and other culinary influences into delicious flavors. But more than that, Frank and his team are all about respect. Respect for flavors, the people they serve, and the part they play in sharing great food. So we're going to talk about how he made a restaurant that's not only crazy successful, but has built a proper reputation for being loved by its neighborhood. Enjoy. I said we'll start off with like setup questions, but this is quite like a reflective one. I guess when you first had that vision for Mr. Bao and what you wanted it to be compared to all that it's achieved like now, has the vision that you had kind of changed a lot, or have you managed to kind of stick to what you wanted and achieve that and feel like, I'm on track, this is what I wanted?
So both, yeah. It's it is the sort of restaurant we had like envisaged when we were like thinking about it and designing it and making the menu. But some things are different in that, we just thought, we'd open one. If it goes well, maybe we'd open the same again and the same again and the same again and do it. A group that becomes a chain. And that's now something that we've like got no interest in at all. We want to open more sites, but we only really have interest for the like exciting bit of it, which inevitably means dreaming up new menus, concepts, drinks, all of it. Yeah, we're not in it for cookie cutter model, which I guess is something that's changed since when we were thinking about it. But yeah, no, the actual concept of Mr. Bao itself as a one-off, that hasn't changed too far from what we had half years ago.
That's good, because it's never, I guess that question's always loaded, because you never know what you're creating until it's created, and then you're like, it changes, right? Like, and that's natural. And it's kind of good that you've got the opportunity to more follow what's like conceptually each of your different sites being different. Is more exciting. And it's kind of why you got into it in the first place. So why would you?
Yeah, for sure. Better, right? And there's like definitely examples of things that have changed through necessity, like what we were talking about earlier with like people understanding maybe a bit more about regionality of where cuisine comes from, specifically Asian, but or Chinese. We started with a really like maybe traditional Korean style kimchi, just as a little side dish, for example, and like basically didn't really sell very much because no one finished it and it was too punchy and strong. And so we kind of created a new dish, which is our golden kimchi. So we roast butternut squash. We like do a really quick light fermentation on it. So it's kind of a very different. That's like a different dish that had to evolve if we wanted to sell any of it, basically. Whereas I wonder now, we get more and more people. We still make an old school kimchi that we put in one of the baos, the chicken bao. And we get more and more people asking for, can I get a bit of that on its own? I think people are kind of, maybe their flavour profiles are all like at least willingness to try something that they know might be outside their comfort zone.
Which is great. I feel like I say specifically Asian, but it's not. But it's such a mentality of being like, you bring something over, like if it's a kimchi, but then you're like, want to make it like people try it, so we'll experiment, and then you end up making something new, and it's like just as exciting. You love it for what it is, and it's you kind of value that.
And that's something that I'm excited about the next bit for, because Mr. Bao, we have always wanted it to be kind of for everyone, and that is all ages, all walks of life, all backgrounds, all like whatever you do with your life, everyone's welcome just about. There are some restaurants where that's not the case, and that might be because they're too expensive or because it makes you feel uncomfortable if you're wearing a t-shirt or whatever. That's kind of never our style of restaurant, but sometimes it's because, everything's just too spicy, and that's kind of a path we've avoided. In the future, we might well have a restaurant where some of the dishes are just really fucking spicy, and we probably can't make them not spicy, and I think that's fine as long as you know what you are and then you kind of stick to it.
That's true.
Unashamedly that, and then in Miss Marquez, we're for everyone. So I think that bit won't change.
I mean, you do really get that vibe when you go. It's such a neighborhood spot. Like people love it. Like
thanks, man.
Stuff. I like it, man. But I guess
that's what we want to be. Like we invest back into the community as well, right?
Yeah,
whether it's like schools and then like getting kids into that to cook, all of that.
I love that
fun stuff.
Yeah, real like groups because that's how you rise, isn't it? Through with people alongside you.
Yeah.
But when you started, God, 7.5 years ago, I guess like Taiwanese food or baos in general, it was. I mean, arguably, correct me if I'm totally wrong. Keep me honest. But they were lesser known. It wasn't like as common, like a cuisine or kind of like a
for sure. Yeah. The educational piece has reduced, like the the amount of teaching someone what a bayo or bao is when they walk in the door. Have had them before. A lot of people haven't had them before, but have been told that they're good or want to try them, and they know what they're in it for. So that bit's like changed for sure. There's still like bits of education around it, and like, you know, why we use that cut, or how come this sauce tastes so different to how I make a hollandaise at brunch. You know, for example, a twist on it, but like it's different from a British hollandaise or European, French hollandaise, I guess.
And I think that you can definitely tell when something is infiltrated people's taste buds. I saw the other day Marks and Spencer's do Christmas bows as like the set.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just this is wild. 7.5 years ago, you never get away with that.
And it's good, right? Before this business, I was like involved in a pizza business. Before that, Mexican, you know, and all obviously food. Yeah. And some things, it's better to have more quality. You know, I worry with the kind of M&S Christmas bounce take home thing is that the customer can like mess it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, those dishes that come to your table and you like build your own. Like, I don't know how to build my own. I want the chef to build it. He or she knows how to cook a really good one. You know, if in the Mexican restaurant, blokes would come in at lunch like, oh, more meat, more meat. We can give you more meat, but trust me, like, you need some rice, you need some beans, you need the veg, you need the salsa. Sometimes you just need that balance. And I worry that, you know, someone's just like, I'm just going to put sliced chicken breast in it.
Oh God, yeah.
It's not gonna be a good bow.
Mate, yeah, I mean, no one should be under the illusion that the Marks and Spencer's bow is of like, this is exactly how they have it back in Taiwan or like in China or anywhere. Exactly. No one should be under that illusion. It's like a novelty, and that's it. Yeah, you want to go somewhere where someone knows what they're doing.
Yeah, but we just went. We went with the dev chefs and the managers back to Taiwan in October. So
I saw,
a bit of research. Man, it was so fun. Have you been to Taipei?
No, I've never been, but we're going after Lunar New Year.
We had the best time. It's like an amazing city. It's like some of the like cleanliness and care and love you get in, say, Tokyo, mixed with like the fun of Hong Kong, and then just the loveliest people. And yeah, it's one of the best places.
Oh man, I'd kill for that list because I have heard nothing but good things. Like, yeah. I
went to a couple of good bars as well, like world top 50s, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, you've got restaurants in London," and then they're like inviting us for lock-ins. And like, yeah, it's so good.
That's the one, man. That's one of like the top things I've heard is like the food is great, it's beautiful, the hospitality is like insane, like people are so friendly. That's kind of the top three.
It's not anything forced about it, and they aren't super used to tourists and everything else like that, and so they're not in it to rip you off at all. You know, if you pay 10p too much, they're like, run down the street after you with the 10p. You know, it's really nice, really nice.
It's good vibe. Well, actually, off the back of that, obviously, you tried so much stuff. Obviously, it was like a research. It's a little bit of research, a little bit of fun, a little bit of pleasure, but you ultimately bring stuff back with you. But after what we were just saying about like people's understanding of regionality has changed, has there been a temptation to bring some of the more I want to say unusual, but that's the wrong word, but the lesser known kind of Taiwanese dishes, things like oyster omelets, fan tuan, you know, like all those dishes that you're just like, would people be open to this back in London?
No, there is. Like I said, like I think maybe it's a whole concept, you know, and you got to know what you are. And Mr. Vowers, as we've said, is kind of for everyone. There are times when we've dipped our toe in. We've done a lou roll fan, you know, like the sort of sort of diced / minced pork on rice, maybe some pickles, like maybe soy cured egg. At some point, we feel like you need to translate it because that's what Mr. Bao does. We've done fun tongues as well, and we haven't translated them. And like, people are like, I get it. But it's because of the environment, because they're sat in a place where every other dish is quite maybe a little bit translated.
Yeah, fair.
You know, so we like stand for a thing. If we, we were like, if the next door site came up again, like maybe we'd do have you ever been to Win Sun Bakery in New York?
Oh no, I haven't. But I've heard it's on that one of those endless lists that you have on your phone.
Yeah. And it's really good. And what they do is like we were thinking like maybe something along those lines where you do a coffee shop, but you like go full Taiwanese basically. So you have the Luo Fun, you have fun tongues, you have all of those things, and but like really lean into it. Bowl of peanut milk.
Steamed soy on the side.
Steamed soy, exactly. And you can get it sweet, and you can get it with spring onions, and you can get it with minced pork as well. And you make all those classics, like a bit of black vinegar, a bit of chili, all the condiments on the table. But you have to really lean into it so that people know what they're walking into. Yeah, we don't want to like have this menu that we currently have and then like totally off it. Having said that, Danny Bow's a different restaurant there, so the menu's different from Mr. Bow. We then also do different events. So we've done like dumpling make workshop.
Nice.
We have like Chinese New Year special like 8-course tasting menu that we do, and that's like that we let ourselves go a bit more crazy for. We just did a 6-course taster for Mid-Autumn Festival.
Wow.
And so those ones have like a little bit more like introducing flavors and dishes that people definitely hadn't heard of, and it was kind of nice, back to having to explain everything.
Yeah. You want a bit of balance between those two things. And then,
yeah, exactly. In terms of how we keep progressing as a company, we'll have regional dishes coming.
I mean, I'm sure, you can't help it. You go over, you see something, you get excited about it, you want to bring it back, and that's fair. But
like people used to go for Chinese, right? And now they go for Hainanese, or they're going for Cantonese, or they're going for Northern Thai,
or
totally Korean only, or like this part. It's great.
It's really, really good. And I personally feel like it's changed how you talk about food with some people sometimes, where they're like, oh, I know a great Sichuanese place. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you get here, but all right, cool.
Xi'an, all of that. And like, the risk, I guess, is that you, not that you alienate people, like totally fine with that, because you'll attract diehard fans in other ways. I'm not really worried about that. The risk is that you end up with too much of a flavor profile.
Yeah.
And with the Sichuanese thing, it's all spicy, or a lot of Sichuanese food is spicy. It's for some Westerns, if you obliterate your tongue on the first bite, you're probably not enjoying the rest of the meal.
No, exactly, and that's fine. And there's a level of, I guess, coming back to Mr. Bao, the accessibility and the care for the people in that neighborhood, and that's kind of one of the, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the successes of Mr. Bao is that it's so community led, and I don't feel like there's a mass of Asian community down base there. I mean, there might be, or East Asian.
No, there's not. No, I wouldn't say there is. It's not like other parts of it, for sure.
Exactly. So there's this element of you're bringing what you want to the table and kind of your point of view and your concept with Taiwanese food and kind of the care for that, but also you're not just going to ignore everyone who lives around there and not try to be like more accessible for them or make sure they feel comfortable, because that's just. What's the point of opening a spot like that, like in a neighborhood where you want people to care about it? If you're not going to, think about that.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because who are you opening for is a question. Right? Are you opening for foodies that come all the way across London and flying from other countries and everything else to come and try food, or like are you an amenity to a community? And that's for sure how we see kind of our restaurants. There's no reason why you can't serve good food, and there's no reason why you can't serve those foodies who come in from other countries and across London. But you've got loads of thousands of people on your step. You got to look after as well.
Oh, totally.
So, we're not in it for being exclusive or anything like that.
Exactly, and that's an external pressure that no one has to put on themselves of being like I got to be one or the other, because it's
exactly.
You end up sacrificing stuff, and it's kind of like, well, I didn't get into this just to sacrifice. Like I came in to make food and make people happy, and that's kind of what I wanted. Yeah,
for sure.
Coming back to how you were setting up and getting used to like a community, was there anything in that first year where you were like, this is important, I'm going to stick with this, or hard that you had to go through in order to say like, okay, I get where we need to go next?
The community, no, not really. We were coming at it from the point of view, we already had a restaurant around the corner called Miss Tapas that my wife opened. She's Spanish, so we had like tiny little tapas bar. We've long since sold it now, but had like a tiny tapas bar, like 28 odd seats, and then with a couple of seats outside, and then next door a Spanish wine bar with like the Parapica stuff, and so we kind of knew the community. We knew what we were getting into. Like Peckham is a very close knit, but also like really open place. So like they were excited to have someone else on offer, but then also like really supportive of some early mistakes, I guess.
No, I know, which is just bound to happen, isn't it? But like, it's good that you have the strong community around you, so that's like, it's fun.
No, so I don't think there was like a turning point. I think we kind of knew what we were getting into, and then we're like really pleasantly surprised by Peckham when we opened with Tapas, and then we kind of knew what we were in it for when we opened Mr. Bao.
That's awesome. Well, I've seen interviews where you've spoken about it already, but the jump from like Mexican food, tapas, to Taiwanese, I was wondering like what was the pull for you?
I feel like I done it maybe in reverse to some people, where I'm not Mexican and I'm not Spanish, but I am Asian. I'm actually half Hong Kong Chinese actually, so to kind of come back to the circle, I feel like that was like the last piece missing. I've always been passionate about restaurants. Dad had a restaurant. To move sort of back and deep dive into cuisines that I've grown up with was something I probably didn't have the inclination to when I was younger, or maybe the time, but now that's probably the most enjoyable part.
I had a similar kind of journey as well. I kind of was like trying to learn so much about like other cuisines for some reason, and then it wasn't until like a certain point where I was like, no shit, I'm really into Cantonese and Filipino, and I want to learn more about all these other things. And that's just sometimes it takes a minute to go away and then come back to value something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cantonese is a cool thing, like for sure. I think obviously Dad being from Hong Kong, that's probably like the sort of style of food we had the most of, but not Cantonese like. It's beef and black bean sauce and it's not obviously we had some of that, of course we did, but like I'm talking like probably what Dad ate when he was younger, through and then he'd play around with that, and we'd eat home style Cantonese food. It's just so good.
It's amazing.
So I feel like we should probably bring London some of that at some point.
I mean, when I moved here, when I was like 10, up north to Liverpool, and they were like, oh, we'll go for. They kind of understood a little bit like, oh, we'll go for Cantonese food. And I was like, okay, fair enough. You guys kind of go. But they count Cantonese food as like salt and pepper chips. I was like, this is wild, man. This is like a whole other, this is not what I'd call Cantonese, but like, it's kind of like a style, I guess, where like Cantonese chefs came over and made stuff.
You've also got that thing of appreciating and valuing the evolution. And sometimes it's not evolution, it's a step backwards when you bastardize sweet and sour sauce and make it out of ketchup. I'm not in it for that. I am in it for a chef. He or she's from Hong Kong, but then they lived in Japan, and then they like moved over to the Philippines, and then they're in London. I'm cool with that. Like I think like taking influence from places you've lived or studied or whatever fits in your skill set. I think that's cool. Should be respected.
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of getting that balance.
I think so. We did like an issue last year, which is all about like questioning a little bit of authenticity. Is it a term that is restricting, where some people can feel restricted by it, where they're like, oh, well, anything outside of this like parameter suddenly becomes inauthentic. Wait, we can't do it. Or is it authenticity like an open word for people to say, well, it's kind of what I'm excited about something. I'm not giving up my heritage or kind of what I love doing or what I've learned, but I'm going to do it in the new context because my life is not the same as it was 50 years ago. Like,
time comes into it for sure, right? Yeah. The authenticity at a moment in time as well.
There's almost a sense of like if people who moved over from like Hong Kong came here, they couldn't find all the exact same ingredients. So they tried to make an authentic as close to the references that they had in that moment, in that time, in that place. And that's still like, it's what you can do, right? So it's as authentic as they wanted it to be in that moment. And I think just out of curiosity, I know I'm springing this a little bit on you, but like, how do you feel about that?
I'm in it for, I'd say like my base principle would be, good food, right? So then if you extrapolate that a little bit, you're in it. I'd say I'd sit on the line of like, I'm not too precious about it.
Yeah.
And that's because I've seen Dad do it in his cooking, and I've seen loads of chefs do it with great success, both like, in terms of what they created in a restaurant environment or something, but also just like the dish that they cook. And, we're talking about the steamed egg, like a chawanmushi. Dad would like whip it up, bit of white pepper, maybe rehydrated shiitake mushrooms chopped up, maybe a bit of spring onion, basically, that's it. And then chuck it into steam, sort of when it stops wobbling quite as much, and then you like bit of soy, plonk at the table. So that's authentic, right? Because that's how he cooks it, and you can't tell the guy who's Hong Kong Chinese through and through that that's not how you cook the dish.
Yeah.
But over time, like, could you, whisk it and like leave it for a second, like, maybe let some of those bubbles come out, and it's slightly like a different texture obviously when it's steamed because it's less aerated. Or one of our amazing chefs, he did one where he'd like basically sprinkled like tiny little mini pickled cauliflower florets on top, and then had made like a choy oil. And so like that's not a chawanmushi that I've ever had pre him cooking it, but it was really, really good. And the basis is there. So I would probably sit on the side of like a bit more leniency on is it authentic or not?
Like it's always a contentious point. But it's like if I tell some people from here, like, oh, do you know what's really Hong Kong? We'll go for like, do you know Hoko Cafe? Like they do like the Hong Kong.
Love
Cafe.
Hoko. Yeah,
love Hoko.
Really rate what they're doing, by the way.
Amazing. But if you take people there and they have no reference to Hong Kong food or like that Asian food, and then you're like, oh, you know, they might do like a pork chop on rice. They're like, this doesn't see like the confusion on their face. It's like, no, I swear to God, like, it's all legit.
Yeah, that's literally. Yeah, and that's I guess what right at the beginning what we were talking about with Mr. Bowers. Like I get it in the Hoko setting. Yeah, it would be weird if we just bonked out on the table. Yeah, because the rest of the food is not like that. You know, you've got to be clever, right? There's some crossover dishes like Hong Kong French toast.
Yeah.
Includes the name.
Yeah.
It's French toast.
Yeah.
But the Hong Kong style of doing it, you know, with the peanuts and the condensed milk and that, it's really cool, right? But you can elevate that as well. Right? You can
totally
make your bread, and you can ferment it, and you can, you know, not just use condensed milk. You can like elevate it and
totally.
Yeah, and there's lots of things you can do, you know. And that is a dish that I think someone who's not familiar with Hong Kong food would like. You put that on the table, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yum."
Yeah, they'd still love it.
Telling me it's authentic, that's great, but I love
it. Yeah. But there's even like there's dishes on your menu which they play with authenticity, but they kind of bring their own spirit. Like the artichoke dishes, through some artichoke dishes, the bacon bao. Like there's so much on there where it's like it's just slightly twisted a little bit, but it's it's still what it is. Like there's no one that could say like this is legit. It's but it's that freedom.
It's like me. A second generation. I'm a twist on my dad.
Well, I know, yes, same man. That's it. We're allowed to be twist.
Yeah, exactly.
And I appreciate it, man. What more do you want? Like, what's next for you guys? Like, what do you? Yeah,
it's a good question. Yeah, can't give too much away. Obviously,
I know.
We have, as I said, like we were opening Mr. Mao. We were like, oh, let's try and open 8 Mr. Maos and then sell it as a group. Yeah, we're like that is not our plan at all. Now we don't enjoy the cookie cutter process or model or anything else, and there's like loads of benefits to it. And you can see like amazing success in like the honest burger dives. It's just not what Abby and I love doing. So we will open more restaurants that are different when we are excited enough to do it, basically. And that might be about a site. It might be a kind of cuisine and concept from traveling around, and we're just chatting about Taiwan. We're off to Hong Kong in March. Like there's like loads of times when we're just like, we just like need to like get this to London. We just need to show people because it's so good. So I think when those two things overlap, we'll open another place. But we're not on expansion march. It's Abby and me, shareholders. So we kind of just do it how we like doing it.
Independent, man. Stay independent. That's it.
Yeah. Nice and slow.
Oh man, I can't wait for what you guys bring out next. It's going to be sick.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much.